Have you ever wondered what goes into your favorite brand's digital marketing strategy? I'm Terrah, the founder of TJ Creative Agency.
And I'm Audrey, the creative marketing director of TJ Creative Agency. Whether you're an influencer, a business owner, a content creator, or just an overall creative person, we'll teach you how to create the perfect social media strategy and build your brand online. Welcome back to Social Sessions, you guys. It's Terrah and I, and we've got kind of a juicy topic, kind of a very timely topic, if you will. We're talking all about ChatGPT, how we utilize it as a social media agency. I think this is honestly an important episode because there's so many people that are like, oh my God, AI is going to take over my job. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you can also just like utilize it to make your job easier, which is basically what we are going to be talking about today. Before we jump into the meat of the episode, also, I have beef with that phrase. Like, I don't know why I said it, but like the meat of the episode, like I just don't
You don't like it?
like that saying. No,
Why?
it just like, I think because when I say it, when I'm like the meat of the episode, I'm imagining an uncooked steak.
I am too.
And
I am too.
yeah, like if we really dive into it, I'm not much of a red meat eater. And the idea of like specifically raw meat that's red meat, it doesn't sit well with me. Like that
Honestly, when I
visual
was
in my
pregnant,
brain.
the smell of like cooking meat, like cooking hamburger or something. Oh,
Good or bad?
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
that's kind of when I lost my interest in meat. But
No, I don't blame you. I was FaceTiming my friend one time and she was making, I might have to cut all this because the idea of like talking about meat, like having someone talk about meat in my headphones is like gross. But my friend, I was FaceTiming her and she like put her phone on the counter and she was cutting up chicken. And I was like, I'm begging you to move the placement of the camera. I can't look at that raw chicken. Put me in your cabinet. Put me on a tripod. Put me far away or face me. I'd rather face the ceiling than watch you cut this chicken.
it is. It's so gross. And chicken, like I struggle with cooking in general, and I think a lot of it has to do with like the cutting of meat.
Yeah, I didn't cook meat until like 2 years ago. Like I had never. And even then, it took me probably until the last 2 months. Like if I ever cooked meat, it was in the oven and I cooked it until it was basically like bone dry. It was always so gross because I was so afraid I was going to give myself a disease. Anyways, so before we get into the meat of the episode, we have obviously an update for you guys, as we always do. And this is, so we'll backtrack a little bit. We know how TikTok kind of shut down the creator program, or not shut it down, but like was really reinventing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your background knowledge for this update. They have now expanded their creativity program, which is like the updated version of the creator program. But for a while, it was only available to people who were invited. It was like top creators. TikTok had to invite you to join this program. And now, starting May 3rd, which has already passed, U.S. creators with at least 10,000 followers and 100,000 authentic video views within the last 30 days are eligible to join the creative program. It looks like it's still kind of in testing because it is called Creative Program Beta, so it's definitely still in testing. But that's just kind of an exciting update because, like I said, you had to be invited beforehand, and now if you meet the certain criteria, anybody can join.
Yeah, they're really the biggest platform that supports the creator economy, I feel like. They're always like actively trying to make it valuable for the person.
I don't think they pay the best, but I do think their intentions with supporting creators does seem to be the best.
Yeah.
Because like YouTube pays really well, but I've heard incredibly bad things from YouTube creators, just like with copyright flags or like getting flagged for, especially when they changed their rules, however many years ago that was. Like I feel like everybody's video was getting demonetized.
And it's really hard to like master their algorithm. Like I don't get it. Like I've been trying for about a year and I'm still struggling. Yeah. You know what I mean?
YouTube's tough. But I also just think that's the nature of YouTube, is that it may not necessarily be that like you're doing something wrong or you can't figure it out, but more so that YouTube just takes the longest to grow. And I think that's been proven. Like YouTube is going to take the longest to grow out of all of the social platforms.
Yep. It really
So,
is.
really quickly, you guys, would love if you rate and reviewed the podcast. You guys hear me say it all the time, but it's so helpful. It's so helpful. I really appreciate it. So if you could just quick pause, or if you're good at multitasking, I wouldn't know anything about multitasking, but if you can do it, then maybe write a little review right now while you're listening. I could never, but maybe you're more talented in the multitasking area than I am.
You're pretty good at
Okay.
it.
I'm actually really not. Like if something's going on, I can barely even listen to music while I work because
I can't do that either. Like some kids, my kids will like or listen to anything while I'm trying to focus, actually.
yeah, I can't. The only thing that I can do is like it has to be like jazz music with no words.
Okay.
Um I'll
I
put
like
on like, well, you know the little like coffee shop videos on YouTube,
yeah,
and I'll put those on sometimes.
there you go.
But otherwise I can't like if I
Oh,
know the words to the song, I can't work while I'm doing it.
I like it.
So now getting into ChatGPT, which I will explain to you what that is if you don't know what it is. I would be kind of surprised if some of you guys don't know what it is, but I'll tell you anyways. There's no judgment here. This is a judgment free zone. So if you don't know what it is, you don't even have to tell me because I'm going to tell you what it's about anyways. ChatGPT, the way that I think about it, like in a simplified version, is it's kind of a glorified Google. Um, but technically it's defined as artificial intelligence chatbot that was developed by OpenAI. So basically, you can ask it questions. This is what they say on the website. You can ask it any questions and get a response in real time. So it's kind of just like chatting with a robot a little bit.
It is.
Um,
It's a little weird in the beginning, isn't
yeah,
it?
you do. It's definitely like a learning curve, learning how to use it. But once you get the hang of it, it actually is really cool. So, what I mean by glorified Google is like obviously on Google, if you were like, what's the weather like today? Or like whatever, it just shows you articles, right? ChatGPT is essentially going to summarize all of those articles and give you a straight shot answer, which is nice. So, it actually saves you a lot of time.
A lot of
Um,
time.
and so basically how you use it, it's like I said, really similar to Google. You can ask it a question, you can ask it for a title for an article, you can have it write an entire article for you. But unlike Google, you have to feed it some information first. So I guess the whole thing is kind of unlike Google in this sense because you couldn't type into Google, write a paragraph for me about
Yeah,
X, Y, and Z. But you can ask ChatGPT to do that. But you need to feed it the information it needs in order to spit out the medium that you need. So for example, like if I were to say I write a blog post about, I need to say what it's about. I like to give it like information about the business. I run a social media agency, blah blah blah. These are the points
mhm.
that I'm using. So you have to give it that background information or it's not going to work. The other thing is that it's very conversational. So with Google, if you were like how tall is so and so, and then they gave you an answer and then you were like, "What about in 2015?" They would be like, "What about in 2015?" Like it they don't attach, you know what I mean? Versus if I were on ChatGPT and I were like, "How tall is so and so?" "What about in 2015?" They would be like, "Oh, in 2015 this person was this height." Like it builds upon each other. So the way that it works too is like there's little, I don't know what you call them, topics, I guess, on the side, or
Mhm.
chats that are on the side, and they like build on each other, right? So it's not like each search result; it's like a whole chat. Think about it like when you go on a website and they say like, "Do you need to talk to an employee or whatever?" Try our chat bot. It's super similar to that, but this just like scours the internet for all information, and it's not just customer service.
Yeah.
So,
It's
kind of
the
for
it's
example,
learning it's just like learning the prompts, I think was hard for me. And I think,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But
like
once
how to actually ask it things.
yeah,
One thing
without
that is
it
important to note, I think, about ChatGPT is it has very limited knowledge on anything past 2021. So anything that happened in 2022 or up until this point in 2023, it really doesn't know much about it. So if you wanted to make something that was super current from ChatGPT, it might not have the information for you.
yeah. I
I did
honestly
want to
think
give you.
that, like,
Go ahead.
you can find, different prompts, and, like, one thing that I think was pretty big for me was, like, learning how to ask it from a certain perspective, because if you just ask it
Yeah.
basic, like you said, I run a social media agency, then it puts it from that perspective or whatever, so I think that was one of the big things that helped me with, like, prompts wise.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I will give you guys some kind of examples on like some of my previous chats. So one was so you can use it in different ways, which we'll get into, and I'll kind of give you two different examples here. One of my last chats was I said, explain retargeting to me in simple terms because I wanted to get to know like retargeting with like paid ads and stuff. So I wanted to learn about that, but like I really did not want to go through a bunch of articles.
should
So I had
yeah.
it do that, and then my next one was how to place a pixel on my Squarespace website. So like this is the nice thing is if you are trying to learn something, it can literally just give you a step by step versus you if I had to type that into Google and then I had to search multiple websites or like a YouTube video will pop up. This is just going to tell me exactly how to do it. But another way that we used it was I typed in come up with trending TikTok ideas for a hair extension company. So that's obviously different, but it's coming up with ideas, which actually leads me into my first point of how to use
Yeah,
it, which is for content ideation,
it's
which is
content
probably my
ideation, huge.
favorite way to use ChatGPT because if you work in a creative space, you're probably very familiar with burnout and being in a creative rut and just not like having any ideas. That happens a lot. I feel like that happens to me every time I need ideas. I don't have any. When I don't need ideas, then they come to me. So I love to ask ChatGPT for ideas. So like I just said, like I read that previous chat where I said give me like TikTok ideas for a hair extension company. That is it spit out like 10 different ideas. And obviously they're not all like thought out a ton, right? They're not complete ideas, which I can't stress enough. A lot of this ChatGPT stuff is not going to be perfect when they send it out, but it's something that you can build upon. So when I like to, even like I've used it for podcast ideas before, like when I feel like I don't have anything to write an outline about or talk to you guys about, I've written, okay, this is my podcast, this is my audience, these are the top 3 episodes. Using all of that information, can you spit out 5 podcast ideas for me or 5 podcast episode ideas for me?
Do you say
And
spit?
then you, hmm?
Do you say spit? Do you say
Yes,
spit
spit
out
out.
spit out ideas?
Yes,
I
spit out
love
5 ideas for me.
I love it.
Um, and then it does, and it's helpful. Like I said, it's not a complete idea, but I'm able to be like, oh, you know what? That might be a general topic that my audience might like. And then I can build on it, right? Then I can add my spin on it. I can do more research on whatever it is that I want to talk about. But I think it's super, super helpful when you're in a creative rut.
Yeah, I think it is too. I've used it a lot lately just because I'm managing so many accounts that my brain will be overfried. And
Yeah.
so relying on it to help me with some ideation has been huge. I
Yeah.
also want to talk about that there's all these other versions of it, right? Like there's
Oh, yeah.
different ones for like photos. Because somebody asked me the other day as a photographer, they're like, are you scared AI is going to take your job? I'm like, no, I'm really not. I think it's just going to in, just create new jobs. I don't necessarily think it's
Yeah.
going to take them away. I just think
Well,
jobs are going to
someone still
change.
needs to be the one putting in prompts,
Yeah.
you know?
There's a lot.
Also,
I mean,
like,
and there's going to be a lot of other things that come with it. You know what I mean?
I
I
think
don't
there's
necessarily think
also
it's very
something to
bad.
be said. I've been having this conversation a few times because I've actually been asked about AI a lot on TikTok lives. I went live twice last week and in one of my one-on-ones I was asked about AI. Um and I think it's great. Obviously, right? Like new technology is always advancing us, right? It's a great thing. But what I think is going to be even more interesting than the technology itself is coming up with the laws around it. Because have you seen those TikToks of like Drake if he was covering like whatever song and then it like spits out an entire music video Or like there was one that went really viral on TikTok that everybody thought was a new Drake song coming out. It was all AI. Like none of this was him. So then the music, the record label gets involved, right? And they're like, take this down. Like this is not our client's work, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I think the legality of it is going to come into play. And obviously no one knows what to do because it's so new and there aren't any laws. But like, is it legal to use somebody's likeness without them knowing, right? It's his voice, really. It's his face. And so it essentially looks like he's endorsing it, which then, gets into kind of a scary concept. If you get into political things, not that we need to get political, but when you can use somebody's face and voice
It's pretty
to
trippy.
essentially say that I agree with this, or like, this is what, you know what I mean? Like, so that's what I think is actually going to be really interesting is when they figure out like laws around this, because right now it's kind of a
I
free
heard
for
they
all.
were possibly putting a pause on it while they did that, which I think might be good. Um,
Yeah.
like putting the pause button on while they set the rules, because there are going to need to be some laws around it. It's
Cause
just
I feel like that must be like such a scary, if you're any sort of a public figure, and adding on like an extra layer is being in like a time of cancellations. I think it's cooled down a little bit, but like, oh my God, being a public figure and people thinking that you said something that's cancelable and your entire
there's
career
not
goes
to
down
know
the
that
drain.
like a lot of things have already been done that way. I think the first time I
Yeah.
ever realized that this was even possible was, this is random, but I was it was Coachella like a few years ago. They had Tupac like come out on stage, but it was like a digital
Oh
version
yeah.
of him like singing and stuff. And I was like, this is trippy, dude. Like
And it's the
he's
same thing as like, I had kind of the same thought like when Kim and Kanye were still together. I don't know if you remember this, but Kanye, like as a gift
oh
to
dude,
her,
yeah, I mean her dad.
yeah, her dad, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy part was, at least with Tupac, like I could see them using, this is a full sidebar on AI, but this is an episode about AI, so it's fine, you guys. Um, at least with Tupac, like I could see them taking like video footage of previous um like concerts or
Performances,
shows.
yeah.
Yeah. But the Robert Kardashian one was wild because obviously he had never said this. It was like, Kimberly, I'm so proud of you. Like your fifth, whatever, 40th
Whatever.
birthday, whatever it was he was talking about. Like it was very
Yeah.
for that day. Like it's not like they took a voice recording of him from like 30 years ago and used it. It was like, I don't
No.
know. That's what I thought was wild, is that you can
Yeah.
really create anything.
I think everybody was a little bit like in shock when the whole thing.
Yeah, everyone was like, you did
What
what?
and I'm supposed to, and you don't know how to react because you're like, this is weird. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I don't know.
It's
There's a
just
lot of
wild,
scary
I
things
think.
that come with it, but we're
But
in the
like we
space.
said, I was gonna say, there's also good things. I saw a TikTok the other day and it was a guy being like, just asking people on the street, do you think your job can be taken over by AI? Most people, like some people were like, yeah. Some people said no. Most people said yes. But I'm like, technically, I think any job could be taken over by AI. But I also don't know if that would actually happen. Because, okay, so this actually is kind of a segue into another way that you can use ChatGPT, which is captions, which Terrah will kind of get into in a second. But right before we turned on the mics, we were talking about how sometimes it sounds a little bit robotic. So you have to go in and tweak things and make changes, which is why I'm like, I don't know if I mean,
I think
obviously it's the
eventually
beginning
though,
of
because
AI.
we're basically
I was gonna
training it. So
say
then we're
I was
fixing
gonna
it.
say it's at the beginning, but like as of right now, it does still sound a little robotic. It doesn't have like, I don't think it has an easy time picking up tone, which is why like when you're writing a caption for different companies, obviously the tone switches, right? Like if I'm writing a caption for like a luxury apartment building versus a kid's dentist, those captions shouldn't sound the same because it would be weird if they did. But that's the one thing that I don't think ChatGPT has an easy time doing, is like deciphering tone.
Emotion, yeah, tone. That's true.
So
Yeah,
Tara,
so
do you
I've
want to
used
kind of
it.
explain how you use it?
Yeah, I've been using it. Honestly, the easiest, there's a podcast actually called, what is it called? You sent it to me.
Oh, social
Social
savvy.
social savvy. I love her, but she had talked about it and simplified it to me in a way that I was like able to digest it and actually use it. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, and I've been using it a lot with captions, just out of, like Audrey said, I use it to an extent of helping me get that idea started, help me maybe get that sentence started, and then I'm able to kind of move it around and make it sound like the client or the client's tone or whatever. But it has come in really handy. It's one of the parts of this job that I've actually despised for 5 6 years I've been doing it, is that I was like, I just want to be a creative writer in my next life, because I'm just not as creative as I think I am with photography or anything like that. Writing has just not been my
Same.
thing. And
Same. That
so,
was always my worst test scores in school was writing.
yeah, and spell checks and all kinds of
Yeah,
shit.
same.
So, it's just not my jam. And I was like, I need it. Honestly, when we hired Megan, a big part of that was because I wanted a creative writer. And I still value her. I think she's way better than ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I needed somebody to kind of help with that. And I feel like this is kind of given, it just made it a little bit easier as far as it
Yeah.
goes to, like, as far as writing captions has come, because I spend so much time on the creative itself, on the piece of content, and then when it gets to the caption, it's just like I'm burnt out. And so giving it kind of an idea of what that post is, and if it can help me write a caption for it, it's been
Yeah.
really great at that part of it.
I will say kind of an honorary mention for caption writing. Later has an AI bot that you can use actually and do basically the same thing of like, this is what my post looks like, or this is what my post is about. And then it'll give you a caption. Again, it's very much like a rough draft. You have to edit things like, and sometimes this is what I mean by robotic too. Like I had made one or I had tried to use it and I was like, this is a meme about blah blah blah, and it like the first sentence was good and then it followed it up with check out this hashtag meme, and I was like, okay, so I would never say that in a caption, so I'll be deleting that.
Oh, delete
um
that part. Yeah. Yeah.
so, but one thing, like sticking on the idea of it, like spitting out ideation type of stuff, I've been using it for, so we're coming out with educational type of content. It's obviously not here yet, but you guys are kind of getting the behind the scenes about it. So I was writing an outline or trying to write an outline the other day. And one thing about me is I have a hard time starting with a blank page. I feel like I need something to work off of, whether it's like someone gives me a word or someone gives me like a template or a color palette or something. Like I feel like I just need something to essentially get the ball rolling. So in this situation, when I needed to write an outline, I was like, okay, I have like notes written in my folder. I have like a brainstorm, whatever, but now I need to put it in outline form. I was struggling so hard, even though I had essentially all of the context and all of the points that I wanted to make. I didn't know how to structure it. So I went into ChatGPT. I was like, this is the topic that we're talking about. This is who we're, you know, trying to target with this kind of education or this course or whatever. These are, well, so I wrote that. I said, write an outline for me. And it wrote
Mhm.
it. And I said, okay, so now I'm going to need you to include these other like three major points. And then it threw those in there. And then I copied and pasted that into a Google Doc. And then I started to add in the notes that I had because it almost felt like now I had folders essentially to put things into. So that I thought it was really, really helpful. Obviously, the outline that it came up with on its own is not enough. Most of the time, this type of stuff is not going to be enough, but it was a really great starting point for me when I felt like I did not know where to start. Like I just felt really, so this is what I mean when I'm not good with a blank page. I get really overwhelmed. And I think it's more so like knowing that I have so many options, I don't even know where to start. I just get so
Yeah.
overwhelmed and anxious about it. So this kind of eliminates that overwhelmed feeling that I'm sure a lot of creative people can relate to.
Another way that I've used it, and this goes with captions, this goes with all kinds of things, but I'll actually write it out in my voice, or how I write it, and then say, can you rewrite this better, like in a better format? Or can you rewrite
Yeah.
this? because that's where I think I've struggled, especially with writing. Is like I have feelings, and I used to think I was like could write letters amazingly. Now I'm like, no, I can't.
You're like, well,
But
I'm not sure.
yeah, you didn't understand what I was saying. So being able to do that and then say, can you like simplify this, or can you help me write this in better English? You know, like it's been able to do that too, and I think that is one way that I've enjoyed using it.
Yeah. I think the last way that I've really used it is for kind of keyword search. Now, take this with a grain of salt because, like I said, it has limited knowledge past 2021. But I mean, your keywords are going to stay similar ish. So if I say I've used it mostly with Pinterest keywords, I should say. And this isn't to say I don't use other ways of keyword searching. Like I did the whole ad situation as if you're going to run an ad and then you can see what keywords are trending on Pinterest. So I've done that kind of stuff. But this is just essentially another tool for your toolbox. But just saying, I have a post about this on Pinterest. It's coming from this account. Can you give me some keywords that apply to this? Because keyword search, I hate doing it. I don't mind putting them into the post, but obviously, we all know that you have to kind of update your keywords pretty regularly, like once a month, maybe once every other month. Um, so that's something that I've kind of done. Again, it's just an additional tool. I don't think it should be your only tool because of its limited knowledge. But it is helpful.
It is helpful, and I don't think it's going anywhere. So I think we just have to. Uh, it's scary. I think for a lot of people, it's the fear of it that holds them back. But with anything like this, like you don't want to get left behind. So I would suggest just
Yeah.
trying to figure it out at the minimum, um, and know how to access it, stop it, all those things.
Yeah. I was going to say, we all, especially if you work in social media and you're listening to this, we know how quick things change. And we also know that if you don't change with the times, you're going to get, like Terrah said,
Left
you're going to get
behind.
left behind. So I think it is important to at least learn about it, utilize it a little bit. I do think that this is one of those episodes that don't just apply to people in social media. I think this is actually probably a huge tool for just business owners in general. Like, if you need like a generic like email that you're sending out to all of your clients, or you need help with a newsletter for a new product that's launching or whatever, it can cut a lot of
Work
time,
time out. Yeah.
especially if you're like a single business owner. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have a team yet. This can really help you out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be valuable in that way. I think honestly, it frees up the idea is that it frees up time and allows you to do more of what you love to do, right? Like that's kind of what
Yeah.
it's supposed to do. Um, but it has that scary factor of it taking things away. But we'll see where it
But you
goes.
know what? Like, every new technology people have been freaked out about. You know
Yeah,
what I
they have.
mean? Like, I don't think people loved when the computer came out. I don't think when people loved when an
The
iPhone came
internet,
out.
yeah, no.
Yeah, the internet in general. Like, that's just kind of how technology is. Like, it's always scary at first because it's new, right? Like, we just don't know how to work with it. And that's why you have to teach yourself, you have to learn, and then obviously it gets less scary. Like, even for me, I would hear people talk about ChatGPT and I was like, that's for like coding engineer type of
Yeah.
people. Like, that's not my
Uh-huh.
vibe. And then I started
And
using it and I was like, no, it's actually really helpful.
I actually don't mind it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's actually fun.
It
Anyways,
is fun. It's gonna be.
so
It's gonna like be like a friend, too.
yeah, I was
I
gonna say
also
it is kind of fun when you get started. I'm just asking it questions, talking back to it. I'm like, if any of you guys have listened to me speak just in general, you know that at about 4 to 5 p.m. when I stop working, I get delusional because I know, like, if I should say, if I have not talked to anybody during the
so
day,
you
which
start
is,
talking to ChatGPT.
so I'm like, you could talk to ChatGPT. Normally it ends up on my Instagram stories. Like, I just start spewing things out on my Instagram stories, but could be an extra friend, you guys. If you guys start to get delusional because you work from home as well,
They said that
try try talking to
Snapchat
ChatGPT.
Snap has a version. Have you used that one?
Oh, okay. I actually don't use Snapchat at all. It's off of my phone.
Yeah, me
Well,
neither.
it's not off my phone, but people will like my friend sent me a Snapchat the other day. Not the other day, 3 weeks ago. I responded the other day. And he was like, what did I even send you? And I was like, I don't know. I don't remember anymore because I didn't respond to the what did I send you message until another like 4 days later because I never opened the app.
Yeah. I wondered because I know my kids were talking about it. So I worry about
I
that one
have
just
heard about it.
because.
Someone brought it up to me. I think just because AI is becoming like so regular, just like accessible is I guess the right word. Because it's becoming so accessible, I do think a lot of platforms and businesses are going to try and integrate it. Like I said, Later has it. I wouldn't be
Canva has
surprised if
something too.
what does?
Canva Canva has
Oh
something.
yeah.
AI
Like I wouldn't be surprised if Instagram and TikTok started like,
adding
you know what I
something.
mean? Yeah, adding
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll probably have to do another episode in like a year and just see what happens
yeah,
with
I was going to say
ChatGPT.
maybe we'll react to this episode and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we didn't know anything about it."
That would be fun. We should actually do that with some of our other ones too and be like, oh my gosh, things change.
Just react to it. I agree.
Yeah.
I feel that way sometimes. I get TikToks. People will still comment on TikToks from like before I even moved here. So, like a year and a half ago almost. And I'm like, I don't even know if I still stand by this. Like, this video is a year and a half old. I don't even know if I agree with these tips anymore because things change so much. Um, Anyways, that's our episode on ChatGPT. I hope you guys enjoyed it and maybe it made you feel like less intimidated by the software. Let us know if you use it, how it works for you, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Social Sessions Podcast. Follow us on TikTok and our business Instagram at TJ Creative Agency. And we'll talk to you guys next week.